Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on this fine Wednesday. I hope everybody's been having a great week and avoiding the flu that's been going around everywhere, knocking everyone out here in St. George, Utah, including my little family. But I'm so happy to be back this week, and I'm very excited for our guest today. She's not only a good friend, but she's an amazing woman that I think you can find a lot of inspiration from. And her story is one that will definitely let you see that all things are possible. And when you think something is going to be one way, life kind of gives you different direction and you figure it out. And how do you figure it out? So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my friend Kat Puzey.
Hey, hi.
Formerly Kat McCracken,
I
which
know.
is like the best last name anybody's ever had. I love that last name.
I know we were talking about it before we started, and it took me 7 years to change my name when we got married because I was like, oh, McCracken though.
Such a good one.
Yeah.
Such a good one. So Kat has a journey where she is now the owner of the downtown farmers market here in St. George. And I didn't even know that. I just found that out myself.
Yeah.
So this is news to everybody. You're hearing it here first.
Breaking coverage, you guys.
Newly released.
Yeah.
And Kat, you know the show. The show is all about resiliency and self-compassion, hope, the stories that we all share of humanity and how when we have hard times, sometimes we don't realize that those times will pass. If we hang tight, all the different ways that people have found their path through those hard times. And so I would like to start with a little bit of your background, where this story starts for you. How did you become the owner of Downtown Farmers Market?
Well, first of all, I just have to say that this camera is very close, and when I get nervous, my eyes twitch. So I was like, I can feel my eyes twitching, and it's right there. So I'm just prefacing that.
You're good.
So my background is actually in corporate retail. And so I worked for one of the largest chains in the U.S. And over the 5 years that I was there, I got promoted 5 times, which I'm pretty proud of.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
And
awesome.
so that career took me from Park City. Then it brought me down here to St. George, and we loved it. I loved the weather. I was like, oh, snow's not I don't have to live with snow. That's amazing. But they made it clear when I came down here that it was temporary and not to get attached or anything like that. And so I was down here for almost 2.5 years. And then we got promoted, my husband and I got offered Denver. So we moved to Denver. And when we were making that decision, there was just things that didn't line up. And the offer just wasn't right. It didn't resonate with me. But it had been the plan for so long that I didn't know I was allowed to pivot. You know, when you're younger, you're like, no, that's the plan. This is what I'm doing.
Right.
And so we went through with it, even though it kind of it didn't sit right with either of us. And so we went out to Denver, and I could just never find my flow there. And it was really hard. And it turned out that the company was going through this weird, they were also pivoting. So it wasn't working. And so amongst that, I found out I was pregnant, which we hadn't planned or anything like that. So
Surprise. There's your plan.
Surprise, and we were not going to have kids.
Oh, wow.
We were going to just no thank you,
Yeah.
and it had kind of been put to me at a younger age that when I went in, they were like, oh, you have the beginnings of endometriosis. It'll be really difficult for you to get pregnant. You'll need help. And I was like, okay, well, it's obviously not on the table. Not for me. I'm not going to worry about it. Move on, So we were just not going to have kids. And I guess the altitude unplugged my ovaries or something. And so I got pregnant there, and it was all of a sudden like, what are we doing? And everybody who's had a kid knows everything changes. It's just like, okay, I can stay here and I can work this job, or we've got to figure something out. And I had heard how women that got pregnant were treated in my industry, and I didn't want to use that as a crutch. So I pushed through. I was working like 70 hours a week until I clocked out, and I had my son like 2 days later.
Wow.
Yeah, he came like a week
You're one
early.
Of those?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Worked till the very end.
Worked right up until he came out. And So my husband finally looked at me and he goes, with this, he goes, I just really think we need to go back to St. George. And I was like, 100. Okay, let's do it.
And do you have family here?
No.
Okay.
We don't have any family here. We just like the desert. We
Yeah.
loved it so much, and I'm surprised at how much I loved it because when you look at pictures of the desert, it's so desolate, and I thought that I'd always feel lonely.
Oh.
But I didn't realize how affected I was by the seasons. And it got worse as I got older. Mm-hmm. And I remember working in Park City and I remember one time I was standing at work looking out the windows and it started snowing and I just remember crying.
Aww.
I just started crying. And so I was like, let's go back to the city, like St. George, because he works for the city here. And so we did. So Ira was born and 3 days later we packed up and left.
Wow.
Denver. We sold our house. Our closing date was his birth date.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I moved in with his parents while he found a place here. And then they moved us from Idaho to here. And we settled in 3 weeks after, or
Wow.
It was a month after Ira was born. So then we found ourselves back in St. George. And not surprisingly, because I had just put myself through the ringer, I, hit that wall. All of a sudden, everything just didn't work anymore. My mind didn't work. My postpartum, I suffered severely from postpartum depression. And luckily, it was never towards my child, but towards me. Very much, I felt like a failure. And
I think that's really relatable.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of women go through that. And I noticed as the decades have gone on, I had my first children 2 decades ago. People didn't talk about it.
Right.
But now it seems it's known that this can happen, that this does happen. It's not even just the depression. It's that whole shift from, no kids to kids is huge.
Right.
And now I'm responsible for taking care of somebody. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself. And then that negative self-talk loop that we get into with it of, you want to be like the people you see on TV. You want to be this perfect mother. You want to be the perfect thing. You haven't learned yet that there's no such thing as perfect.
Well, even the mothers that I see walking around dressed.
Right.
I'm like, how did you do that? Where is this coming from? I couldn't even get I think I was down to showering. I know this is gross, probably once every 10 days.
Yeah, no.
Or 7. I couldn't even get myself to shower. I was so in it.
So how did you get out of that?
It took a lot. And a lot of it has to go to my wonderful husband who really saw it. Mm-hmm. He saw it and he was just like, oh girl, what,
How can I help?
Yeah, he was very helpful. And then while we were here, I had really good girlfriends that made sure that I got out of the house at least once a week,
Good.
to or even they came there because it was really hard to get me to leave the house.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it, my husband, it's so funny because it's just a no-win with hormonal women sometimes. And I will say that with me, it was a no-win. So if he had said he would say oh, what's wrong? It's not right. And I'd just be like, why are you saying that to me? But finally I went to a doctor here and that was the first time that a doctor had made me take the 6 questions of mental health.
Oh, the screener?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was the first time I'd ever seen that. And so she immediately pointed it out. She was like, this is scary. And I was like, oh, no, I'm fine. And she's like, no, these answers are not normal. Or she goes, they're normal of postpartum. Yeah. Right. And I was like, well, I think I have a handle on it. And it took me another visit to her. And then she was like, okay, you've answered these questions the same over this year. We need to do something. And that really helped. And so it really was a combination of my just having that really strong relationship with my husband because we've been together almost 10 years, of him really just being a very amazing support system and treating it. So
that's really good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you were able to go to a doctor who was
Yeah.
aware enough to give an assessment and that you
Yeah.
answered honestly. I mean, a lot of times we hide what
Yeah.
we're feeling. We're scared about it. And so you being able to get help that way is really a good thing. And for those of you out there that might be listening that are going through that right now, I know personally some friends that are kind of going through this. You have to reach out, please.
Right.
You know, reach out to your doctor because it can be treated. It is something that can be treated. It is something that you can kind of move on from with some therapy, medication, time, whatever it works out for you. But it is something that you shouldn't lose hope over, that it's going to stay that way forever, even though it feels like that at the moment.
Yeah, and she was, I think she was really smart when she was helping me, because she said, you know, this is not a forever thing.
Right.
And she was like, it could just be to help you get over the hormonal imbalance that goes with postpartum. She was like, so we can reassess. And a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, it's self-care. You need to be self-care. And I was like, yeah, I was so depressed. There was no way I was taking care of myself.
Right.
And so, you know, if you have those battles in your head, and honestly, it had gotten to the point where I didn't care anymore. That's how I was able to be honest with her, as I was like, this questionnaire is not, you know, like... this questionnaire is not what's ruining my life.
Right. I don't have the energy to make up answers for this even, so I'm just going to put what it is.
Yeah.
Which is a sad place to be, but really good that you were able to alert them to help. So you get some treatment, you get some help going in coordination with your doctor. Life starts moving forward. How old is Ira now?
Ira is like... I want to do the month thing, but he's like over 2 years old now. So he's older, he's tall, he's wild, he's blonde, blue-eyed.
He's like 2.
Yeah.
So you're making that switch. You come back here. You're out of the workforce, the job you've known for all of these years, and that the plan, as you referred to it, that was going to happen, that life throws you curveballs, and now you find yourself in a different plan of sorts and making it work. And... were you feeling bad about not working? Or
yeah, you know, like I felt not guilty, because my husband and I have taken turns kind of, you know, like there was a point where he had a pretty significant knee surgery and he was out for like 6 months in recovery. And so, and I worked and you know, we've traded back and forth, and there was times where we've just had to support each other. So I think for like the first 6 months, I was like, oh, it's my time. I get to stay home while I was crying.
Right.
You know, I was like, I don't feel bad at all. I'm doing what I need to. But then after 6 months, I was like, what are you doing with your life? You know, like, this is not you. Which is sad, because it is me. I love hanging out with my son. I don't think that that's not a job. It's work.
It's work.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But you know, like I wanted something for me.
Yeah.
And you know, we started talking, and I was like, well, I could go back into corporate retail. I could go back into retail, and once you have a kid, and you know this, once you have a kid, it is really hard to get yourself to do something that you're not passionate about.
Yeah.
If the passion is not there, how do you justify being away from your kid?
Right.
You know, like, but when it's passion and it ignites you and it's something you love, it's like, no, this is making me a better mom. This is making me a better person for you.
Right.
So,
can we stop on that for 1 second? Because I think that is a point that we definitely are not talking about enough or aware of enough, that being a good mom looks different for every single woman out there.
Right.
And what it takes to fulfill her looks different for every single woman. And some women are fine being home. I've been the gamut. I've been stay-at-home mom. I've been full-time working mom. I own my own business mom, you know, all over the place. The judgment that we throw on each other as women is uncalled for and unnecessary, because we all have whatever calls us. But along those lines, it's okay to feel like you want to have something for yourself, to have a space for yourself, whether that's going out to a book club once a month or, you know, a girls' night out, or working a full-time job, or having a business, or anything. when you are fulfilled, when you have that passion inside of you, when you're filling up your own cup, you're able to pour from that cup.
Right.
When you aren't, it's really hard to be a good mom. You start getting resentful. You start feeling like everybody's taking everything from you and you're not able to continue giving on that level that you need to. And so I just want to put that out there that whatever you need to do to be fulfilled, you go, sister. You know, you go.
And you're right. And we should, there just needs to, and I feel like it's happening with everyone I talk to. There is just such a shift in women supporting women.
Yes.
You know, and I love it. I love, you know, I just feel like this past year or two when you're passionate and you're focused on that, it just brings these passionate people to you. And these relationships, some of the most important relationships of my life have been with other women helping me negotiate and cope.
Right.
And if you are constantly pitted against other women or comparing yourself or judging them or any, like you're cutting yourself off from some of like the most saving grace relationships that you can have.
Completely.
And
empowering women, empowering others. It's a necessary step that I think you're right, as womanhood collectively is taking a shift towards, instead of being competitive and I have to tear you down, I have to get ahead of you in the rat race, I have to make sure that I'm better than you. Now it's we are all rising together, and it's so good. And
there is just nothing there's nothing better than being around powerful women.
Yeah. I agree 100%. It took me way too long to figure that out.
Because you're not taught that.
No, you're not taught that. That's not how we grow up.
Yeah.
But once you finally get it, you're like, oh, this is so much better. This is so awesome.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, the level of understanding and inspiration and kindness, and, you know, women are so loving. You know, obviously we're mothers. You know, we are so loving. And so to have that, like to have just people outside of your mom and, you know, your aunts and stuff that are so loving and can be so kind.
Cheerleaders.
Like, like it's just amazing. And so
how do you end up, we have about 6 minutes here left or so. No, time goes so fast on the show. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So tell us how you end up at owning the downtown farmers market now. This is so incredible. I'm so excited for you, by the way.
Thank you. I'm excited too. It's actually through women. So I have a really good family friend, Adele, and they put out that they needed a market manager, and she contacted me. She goes, I don't know if you'd be into this, and I was like, I would so be into this. Like, I was like, sales, but local people I care about, like all of these things. So I applied and I got it. And, you know, it was a woman well, I guess the Paces owned it, a couple, but Nikki really, she founded it and really put her heart and soul into it. And the past manager, Jill, is amazing. They're both amazing women. And so they really trusted me and taught me and trained me and let me loose and let me have that confidence in it. And then, you know, I think that there's so many things about the farmers market that I love that let me do things I'm passionate about, like writing, like Meet the Farmers, and putting on events and booking music and getting to know this community that is so amazing. We have a lot of amazing people here.
Yeah, we do.
And so I think after seeing how passionate I became and involved in it, they were really looking for somebody to take it over. And so they approached me and asked me to take it over. And I thought about it for a minute, and I went home and I looked at Monty and I was like, is this what we want? And he goes, this is exactly what you want. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it. And so that's how I came to own it. And we have some exciting things. We're gearing up for our season. It starts May 11th. And
there's around the corner.
Yeah, there's just so many exciting things that are happening.
Like what? Tell us some of them. We have some time. What do we got? What do we got going on?
Some of them we can't really talk about. Some of them are still in the works. Yeah, some of them are still in the works. But we have a logo redesign coming up. We've been working with another woman, Alicia Lockwood of 6-Bit Creative, and she has just been amazing. And we really are trying our hardest to find a way that speaks to St. George. You know, we want this to be an event that is all about our local community, and that really represents that to visitors and our patrons. So,
Do we have a lot of farmers around here?
we do. We have, there's about 10 that I know of, that doesn't seem like a lot, that have, they're lifers. And then as you go up the valley towards Cedar and as you go away up towards Gunlock, there's a lot more serious farmers there's 4-season farms. We have a lot of agritourism going on here, and I think it's a huge untapped market. We have a lavender farm that went in.
Wow.
Yeah. It's called Baker Creek Lavender Farm, and they actually sold with us last year, and they made enough money at the farmers market to get their own essential oil
Oh, cool.
distillery. Distiller.
Distillery or
Yeah,
something?
so they're going to start making local essential oils, and they're just cool people. They care about the area, they care about their land, they care about the people, and so they're putting in these lavender farms, which in like a year is going to be, talk about the most romantic place to have a wedding,
Right.
like or just social events out there. And we have some farmers up towards Enterprise that they're doing the recycling thing, the off-gridding thing. So they're finding wood and they're finding abandoned tires and making greenhouses out of them. And
Wow.
they're going year round. I mean, we have some, and not to mention just the artisans too. Like, we have some people that make some incredible things around here.
That's
and
really cool.
So we're excited to be that venue for them, to get that foot out the door to, because brick and mortar is so crazy, especially in this environment. So we're glad to provide that space.
I love it. I got to get more plugged into that stuff.
Yeah,
I've
it's
been
fun.
like craving chickens, not to eat,
No,
but to have.
I know.
And so I saw that you recently got some chickens.
Yeah, I haven't actually got the chickens yet because I'm still trying to secure the coop because my animals are crazy.
Oh.
But it's been a lifelong dream of mine to have chickens. I'm kind of obsessed with them. Like, every Christmas, my mom used to buy me this extraordinary chickens calendar that had like a different chicken. They're kind of my power animal.
I
So
love it.
I'm really excited. So
That's really fun.
yeah.
So with the farmers market, it's going to be every week, or
yeah, it's every week, 9 a.m. to noon. And that's one of the things we're, toying with is locations and just where can we grow. So right now we're at Ancestor Square. But we have live music that starts at 9:30. And we are talking about having yoga classes in the morning there. So you can come and do a free yoga session, which I think will be awesome. And then we also have our education series, which is really fun. Every Saturday we have an educational class. So last year we did some fermenting, we did sourdough, we did a chocolate making class, we did a cheese making class, and it's just really fun.
Oh,
So
I love that. I
yeah.
gotta get in on that
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And so it's weekly. We aren't quite sure the location
Yep.
yet. What is a website, or how do people
It's
get following?
farmersmarketdowntown.com, and
Okay.
we are also on Facebook at the Downtown Farmers Market at Ancestor Square, and we are on Instagram at Downtown Farmers.
Awesome. Oh, I'm so excited about coming out. I went out last year a couple times. I'm excited to come out again this year.
Yeah,
and
those strawberries.
check it all out. Yeah, they have the best strawberries there for sure. Thank you so much, Kat, for being our guest today.
Yeah,
And
thank
everybody,
you.
I hope you have a fantastic week. I look forward to talking with you again next week, next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. And for everybody out there, go write something positive on your mirror. Go put something positive on your mirror and say something nice to yourself. Have a great week, everybody.